When you think of rare and valuable coins, your mind probably jumps straight to ancient gold pieces or century-old silver dollars. But sometimes, it's the modern, everyday coins, the ones you might still find hiding in a pocket or tucked away in a forgotten jar, that can hold shocking value. Today, we're looking at two dimes that most people overlook, yet collectors know can be absolute treasures if you spot the right details. These aren't coins you'd expect to be valuable at a glance, which makes them even more fascinating to those who understand what to look for. Let's start by uncovering the hidden story behind the 2007 Roosevelt Dime with errors that can send its price soaring. The 2007 Roosevelt Dime doesn't sound exotic at first mention. After all, billions were minted that year at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. But not every dime struck in 2007 came out as planned. Some major mint errors have surfaced, and the scarcity of these mistakes turns an otherwise ordinary coin into a high-value find for sharp-eyed collectors. The history of the Roosevelt dime itself dates back to 1946, created in honor of President Franklin D. Roosevelt following his death. The dime became a symbol of Roosevelt's leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, and it tied into his support of the March of Dimes, an initiative to combat polio. Over the decades, the design has remained largely consistent, Roosevelt's profile on the obverse, with a torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, representing liberty, peace, and strength. In 2007, however, a few mistakes slipped past the mint's quality control, and those mistakes have become the stuff of modern numismatic legend. One of the most notable is the missing edge lettering on the presidential dollars that same year, a high-profile error that led to collectors examining all 2007 coins more closely, including the humble dime. What they found were dimes with dramatic off-center strikes, double dies, and even some with major die cracks. The off-center strikes are particularly striking. Some examples show Roosevelt's profile pushed so far over that half of his face is missing. These aren't subtle errors, they jump out immediately once you know to look. Another highly prized variety from 2007 includes dimes struck on improperly prepared planchets. Some planchets had incomplete metal bonding, leading to strange surface textures and flaking metal that serious error collectors love to chase. A few coins even show weak or missing clad layers, revealing the copper core underneath. Now, let's talk numbers because this is where it gets really exciting. Typical circulated 2007 dimes are worth, well, 10 cents. But a genuine 2007 Roosevelt dime with a major mint error can command hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the type and severity of the mistake. For example, a dramatic off-center error can fetch $400 to $600 at auction, while a dime struck on a defective or misaligned planchet could soar past $1,000 if it's clean and well preserved. In some cases, spectacular errors have realized over $1,500, especially if certified by a top grading company like PCGS or NGC. Condition always matters. An error coin that's sharply struck, retains full original luster, and shows minimal handling marks will be much more valuable than one that's been rattling around loose for years. Mint state errors from 2007 are especially rare because once an error coin enters circulation, it tends to get beat up fast. Collectors are willing to pay serious premiums for pieces that still look fresh out of the mint. Here's an interesting tidbit. Some of these 2007 error dimes were initially discovered by bank tellers and sharp-eyed individuals going through rolls of coins from their local bank. They weren't sold at fancy auctions or pulled from dealer stock. They were sitting in plain sight, just waiting for someone to notice what others missed. It's stories like that which keep the thrill of coin collecting alive, even for seasoned collectors who have seen just about everything. Another thing that can trip people up, not every minor imperfection qualifies as a valuable error. Dimes with tiny nicks, scratches, or weak strikes from worn dies are common and not worth more than face value. To command a premium, an error needs to be dramatic, obvious, and ideally verified by an expert. It's a good reminder that rarity alone isn't enough, desirability plays a big role too. A stunning, dramatic off-center error will always outshine a minor die chip. For experienced collectors, the 2007 Roosevelt Dime offers an intriguing opportunity because it blends modern minting with the possibility of high-stakes error hunting. It's not just about finding any error, it's about finding the right error in the right condition. When you do, the payoff can be far more satisfying than many older, more predictably rare coins. Before we move on to our next coin, think about this: every day, millions of people handle dimes without a second thought. Yet tucked away among all that ordinary change are extraordinary pieces just waiting for someone with knowledge, patience, and a keen eye. It's a quiet kind of treasure hunt, and one where preparation and experience can truly pay off. Now, keeping that spirit of discovery alive, let's turn back the clock to another fascinating dime, one that hails from a pivotal moment in American coinage history, and which carries its own legacy of hidden value. Let's take a closer look at the incredible 1965 Roosevelt Dime and what makes some of these coins worth far, far more than anyone would guess at first glance. The 1965 Roosevelt Dime stands at the crossroads of a major transformation in U.S. coinage, a small, unassuming piece of metal that carries the story of a nation grappling with change. On the surface, a 1965 dime looks just like millions of others minted over the decades. But for those who know what to look for, certain examples can command incredible premiums, all because of the moment they represent and the mistakes that slipped through during a turbulent time. Let's set the stage. In the early 1960s, the United States faced a coin shortage. Silver prices were climbing rapidly, and it became clear that continuing to mint coins in 90% silver was unsustainable. People began hoarding coins for their silver content, pulling them out of circulation faster than the mint could replace them. By 1965, Congress passed legislation authorizing a shift from silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition for dimes and quarters. The goal was to make coins cheaper to produce and discourage hoarding. 1965 was a pivotal year because it marked the official transition from silver to clad coinage for dimes and quarters. But here's where things get interesting. The U.S. Mint continued to produce some 1964 dated silver dimes into early 1965 to meet public demand, and in the shuffle, a few genuine 1965 dated dimes were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets instead of the new clad blanks. These silver 1965 dimes are among the holy grails of modern era collecting. Now, identifying a silver 1965 dime takes a careful eye. To the casual observer, a silver dime and a clad dime might look similar, but the details reveal the truth. A silver dime lacks the telltale copper-colored edge you see on clad coins. If you look at the rim and see only a solid silver color, that's your first hint you might have something special. Weight is another clue. A silver dime weighs about 2.5 grams, while a clad dime comes in lighter at 2.27 grams. That slight difference is enough for collectors with precision scales to spot an outlier quickly. Beyond these physical clues, a genuine 1965 silver dime should have all the correct details and strike characteristics expected of mint production. But because these coins were mistakes, they're exceedingly rare. Fewer than a dozen confirmed examples are known to exist today. It's a mind-bending thought: out of the hundreds of millions of 1965 dimes minted, only a handful slipped through in silver. The market for these rarities reflects their importance. In 2019, a 1965 silver dime authenticated by PCGS sold at auction for a staggering $9,000. And that's for a single dime. Condition matters enormously, of course. A silver 1965 dime in mint state condition, no wear, brilliant surfaces, will easily reach 5 figures at auction if the market is hot. Even circulated examples, if properly authenticated, can fetch several $1,000s. These coins are not just valuable, they're historic. Adding another layer to the story, the mint at the time was under enormous pressure to discourage collectors from hoarding new coins. In fact, from 1965 to 1967, the mint didn't produce coins with mint marks, trying to make all coins look the same to avoid collectible premiums. That decision also makes identifying the origins of a silver 1965 dime even more fascinating. Without a mint mark, there's no easy way to tell if it came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. Each surviving piece is a tiny mystery from an era when the mint was doing everything it could to stabilize the nation's coin supply. Collectors should be cautious, though. There are counterfeits out there, regular clad dimes that have been plated or otherwise altered to look like silver. That's why authentication from a trusted grading service is crucial if you think you've found one. PCGS, NGC, and ANAX have experience handling these and can definitively tell if a dime is a real silver transitional error or just an altered coin. Interestingly, the 1965 dime saga doesn't stop with silver planchets. Another class of rare errors involves transitional wrong planchet strikes, where a dime design was struck on a quarter planchet or other foreign coin blanks. These wrong metal errors are incredibly rare and command serious premiums when they surface, but it's the silver 1965 dime that captures the most attention, simply because of what it represents, a fleeting glimpse of old America struggling to move forward into a new economic reality. Condition still plays a major role in the value of these coins, just like with the 2007 error dimes we talked about earlier. A circulated silver 1965 dime might show wear on Roosevelt's hair and cheeks, and the torch details on the reverse could be flattened. Even so, because of the rarity, it would still be a highly sought-after piece. But a mint-state specimen with full torch details, bright luster, and no obvious handling marks becomes a true numismatic prize. The difference between a -58 Australian dollars and an MS-65 silver 1965 dime can be tens of thousands of dollars. It's a textbook case where a single point on the grading scale can make a monumental difference. One of the most thrilling stories about these coins is how they've been found. Unlike many rare coins that surface at estate sales or from old dealer stock, silver 1965 dimes have been discovered in everyday settings: coin rolls, change jars, bank deposits. It's not just a theoretical possibility, you could find one tucked away in a collection inherited from a relative or mixed in with rolls at a small-town bank. Every discovery feels like unearthing a time capsule from an America that was on the cusp of massive change. And while today's collectors are far more aware of these possibilities, it's worth noting that for decades, most people had no idea such a thing even existed. That's why so few were pulled aside early on. The longer they stayed in circulation, the greater the chance of wear and damage, which makes pristine examples all the rarer and more valuable today. So, what should you do if you think you've stumbled across a silver 1965 dime? First, check the edge: solid silver color, no copper line. Next, weigh the coin with a precise digital scale. If the weight leans toward 2.5 grams rather than 2.27, you might be holding something extraordinary. Finally, don't clean the coin. Any attempt to clean it can destroy thousands of dollars in value. Leave it as is and send it to a reputable grading service for authentication. In many ways, the story of the 1965 Roosevelt Dime is a perfect example of why coin collecting continues to captivate generation after generation. It's not always about ancient coins or wild treasures locked away in castles. Sometimes, it's the small, everyday coins, minted by the millions, that hide the rarest and most exciting stories. And when you uncover one, you're not just finding a valuable object, you're connecting directly to a pivotal chapter of American history. Bringing it all together, the 2007 error dimes and the rare 1965 silver dimes both show that incredible value doesn't always announce itself with size, age, or shine. Sometimes, it's hidden in plain sight, waiting for the careful, experienced eyes of collectors who know that every coin tells a story, and some stories are worth far more than their face value. Whether you're sifting through pocket change, rolls from the bank, or an old family collection, keep your curiosity sharp. You never know when you might hold a piece of history in your hand.